Welcome back to The Storyteller. For many years, I've always been fascinated by the hidden connections that shape our lives. What I discovered, what anybody could discover, may change the way that you see every person you meet from now on. Let's wait and see. Every day, we rush into meetings, thinking about deadlines and budgets and such like. We look around the table at, say, 10 faces and think, oh, just another meeting. Let's get through this. Motor on. Until one day, I realized something absolutely mind-blowing. Picture this, going back just 8 generations. We're talking about your great, that's right, 6 lots, grandparents, from the late 1600s to 1700s. Each person sitting in that room carries the stories of roughly 500 ancestors for that period. I'm assuming one mum and one dad for everyone, because that's normally how it works. And that's just going back 300 years. But here's where I digress into something absolutely mental. If we went back 2,000 years, which is roughly 70 generations, I'm not going to try the greats now. Mathematically, you should have had about 1.18 quintillion ancestors. That's 1.18 followed by 18 zeros. Or if you prefer, 1,000 times a million times a million times a million. But here's the brilliant bit. There were only about 50 million people alive on Earth back then. So what happened to all those missing quintillions of ancestors? It's called pedigree collapse. Basically, your distant cousins kept marrying each other over and over again because, well, there weren't that many people around for them to marry. So instead of quintillions of unique ancestors, you actually share millions of the same people appearing over and over again in your family tree. It's fantastic, isn't it? I know I'm very geeky about this. So when you're sitting there with 10 people, you're not just in a business meeting, it's like you're in a room with thousands of people from history having a conversation together. I mean, it's absolutely mad. I'll be honest, once this hit me, right at the beginning, I couldn't stop picturing these massive lines of people in old-fashioned clothes standing behind everyone at work. There were times when I actually had to stop myself giggling during quite serious presentations. But here's where it gets really exciting. I started thinking about what I call your business family tree. Just like you get your eyes from your mum and you get your, well, I don't know, lack of direction from your father, you get your opportunities from the people who connect you to other people. So I did something a bit crazy. My partner says completely crazy. I traced every single client I'd ever worked with back to where they came from. The result was incredible. Every single client could be traced back to just 7 or 8 people, including my parents. It was like uncovering this hidden family tree of my professional life. That mate from school led me to my first client. That client introduced me to someone else. Those people opened doors I never knew existed, and so on and so forth. You remember that disaster in Mumbai I told you about in another story? That came from one branch of the tree. The incredible story in Soweto? Yup, that came from another branch of the tree. I know some of these look like wild coincidences. Like, John suggests I go to a meeting. There I bump into Sarah. Sarah mentions me to her friend Dave. Dave? And suddenly, Dave's my client. But when you map it all out, when you look at it carefully, there are way too many of these connections for it to be just luck. So I have 2 family trees running through my life, as do you. One made of blood, one made of handshakes. both incredibly powerful in making you who you are. Now, here's where this gets absolutely fascinating, or mad if you like. What if just one of your ancestors had made a different choice, married someone else, moved to a different town, missed a date? There could be a completely different version of you sitting in that meeting today. Different personality, different talents, maybe even different dreams. Here's what really keeps me up at night. If somewhere back in my family history, someone had fallen for a different person, the David who's talking to you right now might support Tottenham instead of Arsenal. I mean, can you imagine that? That's not just a different me, that's a completely unrecognizable me. But think about this. What if just one business connection had gone differently? What if that school friend had recommended a different company? What if my first client had passed my name to someone completely different? I'd still be here, but would I be the same person? Different connections might have led me to incredible success in something totally different, or maybe spectacular failure. Yeah, that sounds a bit more likely. Meanwhile, if my actual ancestors had been different people, there might be another David out there who became a brilliant musician or scientist instead of a storytelling lawyer. Who knows? This brings me to a big question. I was going to say the big question, but a big question. What shapes us more, the genes we're born with or the people we meet along the way? Ever since this hit me, sometimes when I shake hands with people, I imagine behind them this incredible queue of ancestors stretching way, way, way back through history. The absolute miracle of that moment happening at all is crazy. Because here's what really amazes me. Your biological family tree. Change one ancestor and you never exist. Your business family tree. Change one introduction and you become a completely different version of yourself. Both needed perfect timing. Both could have broken at any moment. Both work together to create exactly who you are, who I am right now. For me at least, that changes everything about networking. When you walk into that room, you're not just meeting 10 people. I keep saying 10 people. You're meeting thousands of ancestors who had wisdom, struggle, creativity, triumph, failure. You're seeing countless conversations, chance meetings to get you to this place. All those, and you'll never guess who I bumped into moments that somehow all lined up were stacked to put these exact people in this exact place. So here's the truth that gives me goosebumps. We're kind of walking miracles. The odds against any of us being here are so crazy, they're basically impossible. The odds against all of us being in this same room with our business family trees crossing paths, you couldn't calculate it if you tried. When people say we're all unique, many of us, and I would have included myself previously, just roll our eyes. It sounds like something you'd see on a motivational poster. But think about this. You're the result of roughly 500 people making exactly the right choices over 300 years, and untold millions before that. Plus decades of business connections clicking together absolutely perfectly. We're not just unique, we are impossible miracles, sharing coffee and talking about quarterly reports. So next time you're networking, and I know networking can feel awkward. I know it always does for me. Remember this incredible truth. You're not just representing yourself. You're carrying forward, stacked behind you, centuries of your family. Try and think about that. And somehow your line has survived history. It's survived everything history could throw at it, plus decades of business connections that led to this exact moment in time. We all know one conversation can change everything. So let's have more of those conversations. Yeah, they can be tough, stilted at first, but chase them down anyway. You'll be shocked where they take you. Be curious. Ask real questions, not just small talk. That conversation might just be the one that turns out to be really important. Be genuinely interested. Dive into their story. You never know if this conversation becomes the missing piece in someone else's business family tree. Be yourself. Honor these impossible odds by showing up authentically. I love that quote that's attributed to Oscar Wilde. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Oh yeah, one more. And be kind. Be kind. I've had people who never hired me recommend me to other people just because, well, I guess they enjoyed the conversation. And maybe that's all it took. It's not about what you can get. It's about how you make people feel. Stay curious, stay real, and stay kind. You'll be amazed how many people want to become part of your professional story. Think about it this way. That person you're about to meet might be carrying the exact connection that changes everything for someone else. Maybe not you. Maybe someone you introduce them to next month. You could be the bridge between two people who end up changing each other's lives completely, and you'll never know it even happened. That's the real power of networking. You're not just building your own future, you're accidentally, or maybe now knowingly, building other people's futures too. Every genuine conversation creates possibilities that ripple out in ways you simply can't predict. You have no idea. So who's going to join your business family today? More importantly, whose story are you going to help write? Just by showing up as yourself. Thanks for being part of the Storyteller community. Thanks for joining me for another story that just needed telling. If you enjoy this tale, well, there are plenty more where that came from. From courtroom battles with music legends to life lessons learned at 35,000 feet. Each story here will change how you see the world. Just a little bit, maybe. Hit subscribe to catch the next story, because sometimes the best tales find you when you least expect them.